What's good? It's your boy Mixtape Moth, and today I'm gonna do a review of the new Ransom album entitled Director's Cut Scene 3. Let's get to it. Ransom is a seasoned rapper coming out of New Jersey. He's one of the most unsung lyricists in the game. In my personal opinion, he hasn't lost a step since he came on the scene in the mid 2000s. In fact, I think it's even possible that he's gotten better with time. So far in 2020, Ransom and Canadian producer Nicholas Craven have been cooking up some marvelous shit in the form of their Director's Cut series. This new project, Director's Cut 3, marks the third installment and the longest of the trilogy with a runtime of just under 30 minutes. The first two Director's Cut projects were also fire, although I did not get a chance to review them, but it's pretty evident that Ransom and Nicholas Craven have this undeniable chemistry, as all three of these projects have been exceptional in terms of the quality of bars and production. We are seeing Ransom in 2020 continuing to rap at the highest level. His cinematic bars and street poetic verses have been magnificent the whole year. I gotta say, it's pretty inspiring to witness an OG still going this hard. It almost feels like he has something to prove, as a lot of these verses contain that level of urgency and purpose. Ransom has some captivating shit to say, and he effortlessly puts it on display throughout this trilogy. So on this project, all song titles were based on the names of actual movies, some being blaxploitation movies from the 70s like Blackula and JD's Revenge, while the rest were a combination of the horror, suspense, and action genres. But he's not rapping about the actual movies in particular, he's just using the titles. Let's talk about Nicholas Craven's production. Of course, he is on the boards for all 10 of these songs. He provides a consistent sonic palette throughout, as the beats are all sample based and rooted mostly in soul and a little bit of psychedelic rock. All of these beats have a very vintage quality, with the sound of vinyl crackling in the background, which gives it that consistent 70s aura. I mean, this whole thing sounds authentically 70s, kind of like Jay-Z's American Gangster soundtrack. So I gotta note that the drums are all pretty much minimal in these samples, and normally I would have an issue with this, but due to the effectiveness of the sample itself, combined with Ransom's thunderous presence on the mic, you don't even realize that the drums are hardly there. So with that being said, let me go ahead and give y'all a track by track breakdown. The first track, Candyman Farewell to the Flesh, has a vocal sample from the movie. It's really the only song to contain a snippet from the actual film titles listed. The beat is psychedelic rock. It's really the perfect kind of beat for an intro, in my opinion. He said, "Went from a spiteful menace to nights in Venice. Flights was endless. Listen to Michael Prince and the likes of Hendrix. Life's tremendous." The way he strings these bars together was so exquisite. So yeah, this was a fire opener, and actually this Candyman vocal sample appears throughout some of these other tracks as well. The following song, Blackula, has strings that sound straight out of a blaxploitation flick. Ransom flows so crispy over this suspenseful instrumental. He said, "Start the day off with no breakfast, selling coke reckless, so you can't tell me about no protest, cause this pro's tested." I mean, the whole verse is actually a quotable, but if I read everything, this video would be super long. On the second verse, he states, "Vision too vivid for your cameras. Prison was like living in a canister, but I knew the parameters. Death will make you a part of the surface. Go and buy that fake love, but respect is hard to purchase. If you friendly with the clown, then you probably part of the circus." So not only are we getting these crazy verses, but he's also sprinkling in some words of wisdom and almost streetwise platitudes. There's a sense of urgency to his flow, like he's giving you mental training to prepare you for a war. Without a doubt, Blackula is a strong second cut from the album. JD's Revenge has a very chill, sentimental, and nostalgic sample that kind of reminds me of something that Ghostface would have rhymed over back in the day. I don't know what the sample is exactly, but it reminded me of the Stylistics or Delphonics. It had that kind of vibe. This track finds Ran in a more reminiscent state of mind, but don't get me wrong, the bars are still murderous. He states, "Me and my shooter like brothers. He knew when I was blinking. Run up on you in your booth and treat your medulla like it's Lincoln's." So ill. The remainder of the song has some thought-provoking bars as well. It closes out with the chorus from Rashid Chappelle, who is an up-and-coming rapper out of New Jersey. He just recently had a track on Buck Wild's compilation album. The next track, From Dusk Till Dawn, has an amazing sample at the beginning before Ransom and RJ Payne start rapping. It has someone talking on it, but this first beat is so smooth. The actual beat that they rap on has this eerie 70s soul sample. It's one of the darker sounding instrumentals for sure. But let me tell you, both Ran and RJ Payne slaughter this track. Like, they absolutely tear it to shreds. Ransom states, "You forfeit. If I was you, a prophet's view, the love can make you strong, but the hate will make you unstoppable." And now these rappers is name calling. Don't gamble with your mic and end up like James Jordan. Then RJ Payne comes through with some fiery bars of aggression that scorch the whole track. You got to listen to how these two guys attack a track. If you like raw street lyrics with that passion and aggression, then it doesn't get much better. Next up is I Am Legend, which finds Ran in deep thought as he's contemplating about what might be or what could have been. Now, conceptually, this kind of track has been done before by other artists, so it's in a similar vein to Fredro Starr's What If and Jadakiss's Why. I like this guitar sample. It's melancholy, but still has a warm sentiment, which makes me consider it kind of like an East Coast version of a Big Crit beat. Ransom states, "What if Jordan was just one hell of a leader off the court, on the court, put his soul into selling sneakers? And what if they killed George Floyd just to incite the riots and they turned We Protest to invite the virus?" So Ransom was getting into some conspiracy theories here, but I personally disagree with his views on George Floyd and the virus, because I feel that by suggesting that George Floyd's situation was staged, then you were kind of letting murderous cops off the hook in a sense. And also I think the virus is very real and not staged. But at the end of the track, Ransom assures listeners that he wasn't trying to offend anyone, but that he has some shit that was going through his mind that he had to get out there, so I could respect that. Then we have the track Misery featuring 38 Spesh. This has a funky but simple piano loop. It's very 70s. I feel like a simple beat such as this was ideal for Ran and 38 to do some damage lyrically. Ransom's verse was also very crisp, vivid, and intricate. He sounded like a true master at work. 38 Spesh also killed his verse with his usual unorthodox style. He really held his own here with some clever wordplay. After that, we get Hereditary, which contains some cinematic sounding strings. This finds Ransom doing some storytelling while also sprinkling in some social commentary. He states, "We demand justice for Breonna and George. I pray that you rest well. When I was locked, I witnessed a murder right in the next cell. The CEOs beat the brother for death for smuggling Nextels." It's so poetic and vivid. Then he closes out the song with a powerful verse mentioning Kobe, Jesus, MLK, and Malcolm X. All that I can say was this was masterfully written and emotionally compelling. The record Gone Girl has a very dreamy soul sample. Ransom is giving us some top-notch storytelling here. It's a great track, especially if you like very crisp storytelling that's picturesque and you like jewel dropping in your verses. But yeah, the sample was really a standout for me. This is followed up by American Hustle, which features more of that dreamy sample production. This one doesn't necessarily give me soul production vibes, but more so some hippie music from the 60s vibes. Ransom's verse is very mafioso, as he kind of reminds me of a combination of Nas and Cool G rap from the mid to late 90s here. But it was Rome Streets who stole the show with his impressive verse. He said, "Old close friends taught me to have no trust, made 14K off the powder, the shit gold dust, shattered dreams, the nightmare Uncle Sam sold us, so I chose to roll the dope on DG scales and doing hold-ups." Both verses were fire, but I gotta say Rome Streets spazzed here. This project closes out with The Shining. The soul beat used here kind of reminded me of the style of production that Static Selector used on the Proposal album with Ransom, which was a very dope project, by the way. The vibe to this instrumental is very glorious and celebratory, although Ransom is giving us introspective bars of pain, like "Violence on this elegant instrumental is a strong reason. Time is probably most quintessential when you in long grieving." This was a great way to close out a very stellar project. Overall, I give this album a rating of 4.5 out of 5. I was thinking of maybe going with a 4.3 or 4.4, but I just decided to round up higher. What makes this project dope are a few things. Number one, one, the high quality level of rapping from Ransom, whether it was the storytelling, wordplay, bars of pain, it was all there and broadcasted in an interesting and urgent way. Ransom has a very commanding presence on the mic that forces you to pay attention to what he's saying. Number two, another great thing was the chemistry between Ransom and Nicholas Craven. This particular style of production really suited Ransom well, so you were really able to focus in on his lyrics. The beats never overpowered him, and I thought the guest features really brought their A game. And number three, a lot of lyrical heat was packed into a short amount of time, so I think the album's length was great as there was no room for filler. I can't think of any drawback to this album other than maybe that this vintage style of production doesn't really bang in the whip. Like, as good as these beats are, I might be more inclined to play something like Dave East's Karma 3 when I pull up somewhere before some of these joints, but that's really minor. My favorite tracks include Blackula, From Dusk Till Dawn, Misery, Gone Girl, and American Hustle. Let me know what you thought of this project in the comment section below. What should I check out next? It's your boy, Mixtape Moth. I'm signing out, but be sure to hit that like button and please subscribe. As always, it's peace and blessings. Ransom, Director's Cut, Scene 3, 1.